So over this past weekend, we've seen SakaLucci pop off. I made a video yesterday talking about the first and second place decks over in Japan. And then also shoutouts to Noah as per usual with the pie graph as you see on the screen right now, showcasing what the metagame kind of looked like over in Malaysia for their championships. And as you can see, the top four decks, the top four, are all SakaLucci. That's absolutely crazy. He also says this Malaysia Championship has concluded. Here are the graphics. With that, SakaLucci got its 5th championship win in a row, making it the most dominating deck we've had so far. So one of the ongoing jokes is that, we're going to have SakaLucci hit over in the West before we even get to witness it at its full power. Now, keep in mind, as of this point, in Asia, there's no restrictions, no ban lists or anything to SakaLucci, which is completely fine, even though right now we're seeing it with a higher play rates and win rates than Boatbeard. Yes, that is correct. You know, the deck that got banned before we even had a chance to touch it. This deck is having more representation and more performance, tops, wins, all that good things than Boatbeard ever had. So technically it's more dangerous or quote unquote unhealthy / threatening to the game than that. And it's not hit. And again, this video is not to call for hits for that because that's the last thing that I want. It absolutely sucks that for us being over in the West, just because Asia has access to the cards earlier, our metagame gets completely screwed because the meta kind of gets solved by them over there. And so they preemptively hit things here. You see what I'm saying? Like let it rock on our end. After about a month, if it's absolutely egregious, then you can go ahead and hit things if needed. I'm not calling for it. Even if we don't have any hits, I'm completely fine with that because there's other decks in this format that can be played. Obviously, this deck is very strong, but with that being said, there are still other decks. We're talking the Church of Purple Luffy. We're talking Enel. We're talking Red Purple Luffy. We see some Whitebeard. We obviously see the Red Purple Laws I've been playtesting. So there's definitely other decks that can still win out there. But with that being said, if they were going to hit anything in the West for us, at least make it be like a month after the set comes out so people actually got to enjoy it. And then there's approximately going to be another month and a half to 2 months of the set that's left. You can go ahead and hit it then after people had their fun. And then people will be able to switch over to other things if they were to do that. Again, I'm not saying that they should because I know some people might say, oh, but Ryan, you want everything banned. Like, no, I actually don't care at all. With that being said, with all of that being said, SakaLucci, let's talk about why this deck is so strong. But more importantly, I want to talk about a card in the deck that is absolutely nuts. And in my opinion, if anything in the deck was to be hit, it would probably be this card. But first and foremost, SakaLucci, what makes it good? Well, first and foremost, what makes it good is the leader ability. At first glance, you're just like, okay, you pitch one card, draw one card. Fair enough. Obviously, you could -1. Now, here's why it's good. We talked about it way early on when the card was initially revealed. Everybody knew it, that it was power creep in that sense, where it's basically a Marine Ford on a walking Marine Ford, right? Your leader has the ability to -1 every single turn. So you don't even need a stage. You can -1. Some people were comboing it with a stage and things of that nature, and then they realized that they didn't really have to because you have so many tools in the form of Hina, Tashigi, Suru. There's a bunch of other cards as well that you could potentially splash in and run as well in order to get the minus on, not to mention the events, things like Great Eruption. I digress. So it already has that, but now having the ability to pitch one card from your hand is really powerful because now you can set up your discard pile, which we'll get to in a little bit, but more importantly, you're able to draw a card. And we all know how strong drawing cards in this game is. So you get to draw 2 cards every turn. Now, think about other top decks that are really strong that was able to draw 2 cards every turn. Remember Whitebeard? Remember Whitebeard drew a card from life as well as drawing for his turn every turn. SakaLucci draws for his turn, and then he draws again by pitching a card. And of course, you would say, oh, you have to pitch a card in order to draw. And that's where we have to talk about Rebecca. Yes, this is the card that I would say that if there was anything to be hit in this deck, I think the only card to be hit would be Rebecca. Now, why do I say that? I say that because the leader ability is supposed to be opportunity cost, right? you pitch a card from your hand in order to draw a card, right? So ideally, you throw away something that you don't really need, and then hopefully you draw something that you will need. Now, of course, there's cards in the deck like SakaLucci or Hina that have no counter value but have powerful effects. Now, you go ahead and pitch them because maybe you are trying to look for a counter, or maybe you're trying to look for a card that will allow you to remove things on board, like let's call it a Hound Blaze or 3000 Worlds for that matter. Well, you go ahead and pitch that SakaLucci, or say you go ahead and pitch that Hina, and guess what? Rebecca enters the game. Now, when you play Rebecca's a blocker, so whatever, we'll talk on that a little bit later. Rebecca's a blocker, but what she does is allows you to get back a card from your trash and then play a card. Now, there's lines of play that Rebecca allows you to do. So, first and foremost, if you want to pull a 2K counter out of your hand, because remember, you could also toss 2K counters, which is what a lot of SakaZukis do as well, especially in the early game. You could toss a 2K counter, pick it back up, and just hang on to it. You don't have to play a card. It's optional. It's up to one card. So you can just pick up a 2K counter, have that in your hand, and have a 2K counter on deck when you need it. Plus, you have a blocker on board. Boom, you have defense. Or maybe you want to pop things on board. Maybe you're going up against, I don't know, let's talk about Trafalgar Law, one of the strongest decks. What if you want to go ahead and pull back up that SakaLucci so you could use SakaLucci and pop two things on the board? Well, guess what? She could do that. The opportunity cost is gone now because you pitched that card a little bit earlier to draw a card, and you might have drew a Hound Blaze or something that you could utilize in that moment. And now not only have you developed a blocker, which is always going to be good on the defensive end, but now you're able to get that SakaLucci back, and which you can then use to control the board. Now, of course, we have to talk about the most devastating card, Hina, because playing this allows you to develop Hina. Now, why is this a problem? You know, you look at Hina and you're just like, okay, it's just a vanilla 5K, but, oh, sorry, not a vanilla 5K. It's just a 5K body with a -4. Imagine if it was a vanilla. Actually, I do this all in one take, you feel me? If it was just a vanilla, it'd be completely fine. But we're not talking about that Hina. We're talking about the Hina that -4 to cost and has 5,000 power. Now, of course, it comes out rested. That's completely fine. But the -4 is very powerful because if you combo that with your leader ability, that's -5. And what gets rid of cards that are cost 5 or lower? Yeah, we all know what card that is. That is 3000 Worlds. Of course, you can continue to use other things like your iceberg, that's the leader. Again, I do this on one take. You could use things like your Ice Age that -5, and then all of a sudden your Hound Blaze can remove everything in the game. Or if you didn't want to do that, you could just use 3000 Worlds because it's cost 5 and you can get rid of that. All just because you played that Rebecca. And guess what? You can have multiple Rebeccas, meaning you can continue to not just develop blockers, but you can continue to have access to controlling the board, getting 2K counters, or having a -4 at will. This card, the recursion, is what makes this deck such a threat because of course, there is going to be the Hound Blazes of the world. There is going to be the 3000 Worlds. There is going to be the 7-cost SakaZukis of the world that you're going to have to deal with of them removing from your board. But then being able to continuously get the SakaLucci. Remember, this is why they call it SakaLucci, because Lucci can just pop 2 cards. And it's very easy for him to do, again, because you have Ice Age. That's 1 cost, because you're playing Suru, that can -2, because you can get Hina, which is -4, because your leader ability lets you -1. You can just easily pop 2 cards almost every turn. Ideally, with your Lucci, if you have multiple Lucci, and if not, you can go ahead and pull it back up with your Rebecca, it becomes extremely oppressive. And so it kind of becomes not really a grind out game, but essentially you're able to get rid of your character's cards while developing your own cards and just continuously poking with your leader. Because remember, in order to get the -1, you have to attack with your leader. So not only can you maybe attack into their board, but if they have no board because you keep removing it with your cards, you just continue to poke it to their leader's life, and then they either take the life, which makes you 1 step closer to winning the game, or they have to pitch cards from their hand. So it's even better for you. So either way, it just creates so much pressure. Rebecca, in my opinion, is what makes this deck absolutely annoying to face. And so if anything were to be hit, the only card that I could really see getting hit would be Rebecca to 1. If they were going to restrict it, right? Just based on, if they were to ban it, I think that's ridiculous, honestly. But again, I say all of this because who the hell knows? Honestly, guys, who the hell knows? They could do it. They hit Boatbeard before it even reached us, right? Because it was a problem in Japan. But this deck has more representation and more win rate than Boatbeard, and it wasn't hit in Asia. So Who knows? It might not be hit for us, but they could hit it for us. And if they do, they might outright ban Rebecca. Or heck, they might even hit Rebecca. They might hit Houndblaze as well. Because remember, look at 4-cost Marco. 4-cost Marco got hit by strays randomly. Like, nobody's really complaining about 4-cost Marco. But 4-cost Marco got hit in that list, and he's still restricted. It's so funny. 5-cost Marco is coming off the list, but 4-cost Marco is still on the list, Bandai? It doesn't make any sense. So that's what I'm saying. It doesn't make, like, it's so weird that if they were to hit this, in my opinion, I think Rebecca to 1 would make the most sense. But if not, like, I could see them hitting Rebecca. I could see them hitting Houndblaze. I could see them hitting Ice Age or some shit. At the rate that we've seen this list, and at the timing, who knows when they would drop the list? I have no clue. I don't know. Again, in my opinion, let it rock. Let this deck rock. Let people have fun with it. For me personally, I won't be playing it, but that's completely fine. But again, guys, Rebecca is the true problem of SakaLucci. But let me know in the comment section below. Do you guys agree? Do you guys disagree? Let me know. Do you guys think I'm completely off on this? And that's fine if you guys disagree. Just give me your honest opinions down below. Or if you guys agree that Rebecca is the true problem with this deck, well then, fair enough. We agree. And also, do you guys think that Bandai will preemptively hit this? I personally think that they won't. Honestly, like if I'm being completely honest, they're not going to do shit. And again, I don't want them to do shit. I don't think they are because they got a lot of backlash with this last list. So I think they're gonna, like, for like PR purposes, they're gonna be like, alright, let's let this rock. And who knows? Again, one thing that we see here in the West is a lot of people like to play a lot more linear decks compared to a lot more of the combo decks. We see that with over in Asia, they had a lot of Law players within the first couple of sets, right? Whereas for us, even when Whitebeard was weaker than Law, like I believe it was last set, we still had a lot more Whitebeard players in Law, where everybody in Asia was playing Zoro in Law, right? But we still had a lot of Whitebeard players. So I could see people here maybe leaning more towards the purple Luffys of the world compared to SakaLucci, because SakaLucci takes a lot more comboing and things like that, a lot more brain power, kind of like how Red-Green Law does, right? So that's my take. I could see all of the Whitebeard players moving over to Purple Law, Purple Luffy and things of that nature. That's a lot more linear. And then obviously the Asian players that really like the Red-Green Laws of the world, they go over to Blue-Black SakaLucci. So, or who knows? Maybe not. Maybe not. Maybe everybody goes to SakaLucci. Let's see what happens. I'll catch you guys later. Peace.